Welcome to Ear to the Common Ground. Here, we celebrate the power of music and food to bring Americans together. Filmed from a historic barn on Cash Lane in Music City, each episode of Ear to the Common Ground features one musical artist and a diverse gathering of 8 of their fans. Everyone brings a dish to the table and they talk about one of the issues of the day, face to face, with compassion replacing contempt, as they keep their hearts, ears, and minds attuned to the common ground. We are Sweet Lizzy Project, and these are 8 of our fans: Cindy, Rocky, Felicia, Jennifer, Lourdes, Lori, Rick, and Omar. Tonight, we're focusing on abortion. Let's celebrate America's greatest diversity, diversity of thought, and shine a light on some common ground.
Here, cheers to y'all.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to start it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Take around the table.
You just got to make sure you look in everybody's eyes.
That's
That's what cheers is.
That's right.
Gentle. Cheers, Lordy.
Do it.
So who's going to start?
So I'll say, I normally find that when folks are passionate about something, there's usually a why behind it.
Yeah.
So do you all have a why as to why you're so passionate about your stance on the topic tonight?
100%. I'll actually I'll let the women speak first. I think this is important for that to happen.
It's always been one of the issues that's most important to me, down to going to pro-choice marches when I was like 20 years old, 30-something years ago.
I'll say with me, I found myself pregnant at 15. And the first question that I was asked after seeing the positive pregnancy test was, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So that was my first time having a choice. And I can't imagine having that taken away from me. And I don't find myself or anyone else godly enough to determine what someone else's choice should be. And so I'm very, very pro-choice because I had a choice.
I would just love to add on to that I too had the choice. You know, I was 18 years old and I made the choice. You know, it was just so commonplace. You know, I grew up in kind of inner cities and I made a lot of other choices that weren't great at that time in my life. You know, I made that choice and for 10 years I thought that it didn't really impact me. You know, it was just a choice that I made. And, you know, I found myself kind of wrestling in this moment. You know, I had been invited to a retreat and I didn't really know what to expect there. And it was, you know, kind of like an altar call. And it was just like, hey, if there's anything that is just kind of like weighing on you, you want to come up and you want to get that off of you. And just something in my heart like almost dragged me out of my chair and I audibly said, no. No, I can't do this. But it came to my mind and I realized that I had never thought much about that choice. But it wrestled me all the way to that altar. And so there I laid it down and I realized that, you know, it wasn't the best choice I could have made, but it was the only choice I knew to make at that time. And so now as a mother of 2 young children and, you know, my life radically transformed, radically saved. And I've surrendered all of the guilt and the shame behind that choice. You know, I'm 100% pro-life. However, I do think it's so touchy because it's so closely tied to your theological beliefs. And so that kind of opens up, I guess, the conversation you know, a little bit that it is hard, you know, it is hard because you want to honor the person who makes that choice no matter what the choice is.
So I've never had to make that choice, but I was very pro-choice when I was very young. Yeah. And as I've gotten older and I've experienced things through friends, being from Cuba, I've had family members who were forced abortions in Cuba because they got pregnant at 13 in schools and they didn't have a choice. So it was the opposite, it was the other extreme, where they were forced abortions. They were forced to have IUDs installed, and they came to this country at the age of 25, and they had horrible infections and pelvic inflammatory disease, and weren't even sure if they would be able to have children. So I don't judge anyone, and I think that, I kind of sit on the fence, and the older I get, I have boys, I don't have girls. It's like, why wouldn't someone give the guys an opportunity? Because my boys have always said, gosh, if a girl ever got pregnant, Mom, would you help? And I go, absolutely. So I see it now from a different point of view than when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I would never want to take the choice away from someone.
Well, I am pro-life. I was pregnant had 2 children by the time I was 18. My first child when I was 16, my second child when I was 18. And with my first child, honestly, I never considered it. I spoke to my older brother today about being here tonight, and he recalls all those years ago when I did become pregnant with my first child, and he recalls even my grandfather telling me, you need to go get an abortion. And my grandfather's one of the godliest men that I knew in my life, but my grandparents cared more about their reputation than they did about their granddaughter at the time. And so I made a choice to be a mom, and it was hard. I don't know where my life would be today if I had not made the choice to have 2 children. But I did, and I don't believe, for me, it's a political issue. It's a moral issue for me in my life. And the center of my life is my relationship with the Lord. And everything that I do in my life, that's what is first and foremost. So that's where I stand.
Okay.
The guys.
I'll tell you, it's my belief that what happens from here to here is my business. It's mine.
Yeah.
It belongs to me. It does not belong to anybody else. The choice for what I do and the decisions I make on my body belong to nobody but me.
I've never been in my life directly involved with abortion. I can say when it comes to this particular topic that I've never seen another topic that is more divided, meaning that you have, for the most part, you have 2 different sides, and both of those sides are extremely passionate about their beliefs, whichever side that it is. I don't know that there's any middle ground. I may be the first person that is in that middle because I'm still educating myself.
I'm an OBGYN and delivered a couple thousand babies, a little bit more than that. When I was in residency training, I can count on one hand. We had, if I remember right, 7 or 8 residents a year, and it's a 4-year program. And I can count on one hand the number of OB residents that were pro-life. All the others were pro-choice, and we'd talk about it. And other residents would moonlight in abortion clinics, and come talk about the complications they had, and the rest of us would sort of cringe, about some of those. And there were experiences that I had in residency where excuses would be made to terminate near-term babies, at 26 to 28 weeks, that were perfectly healthy, and moms are perfectly healthy, and it was just, an inconvenient reality that they were pregnant and they waited a long time, and that just really struck me and made my opinions, I guess, more firm. And for me, it's a complex issue, and it's not easy. And it's not, at one level, I feel like it's black and white, but in practical application, it's really not. Because you've got moms whose lives are being changed and facing social impact, economic difficulties, psychological traumas sometimes. And it's just not an easy easy decision. But at the end of the day, I feel like it comes down to the fact that if you believe that way, that there's another life that we are taking in order to preserve the rights of another. And it's hard. I mean, so for me, I can't get there to say I can sacrifice one life to improve the life of someone else.
I know for myself, being pro-choice, that I'm a first trimester person.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, that because life is viable outside the womb at 15 weeks. So first trimester is prior to life being viable, right? And anything after that gets a little fuzzy for me. But I do have a question for those that are pro-life, because this is going to kind of be a little political, so I'm going to try to word it in a way to make it not so political. Are you pro-birth or pro-life? And the reason I ask that is because we're currently in an environment where programs, all the social safety nets are being cut for women poor women especially, that need the assistance. And we're talking about getting rid of the right to choose. So it's very concerning to me, because I hear a lot of people saying they're pro-life, but they're all okay with cutting the social programs. But that's not pro-life, that's pro-birth.
Agreed.
You just want the person to have a baby. And I really struggle with that. So I'd love to hear the folks that are pro-life.
I'm not sure if there's a fringe on the right, the pro-life movement, that truly believes that. Everyone I know, and I've been the medical director at a couple of different pregnancy support centers, and what I've seen is actually just the complete opposite, where so much support is given moms, not just during pregnancy, but even after. I mean, even with, as kids grow up, 5-year-olds coming in to, get clothing and food and formula and diapers. And what I've seen is a tremendous amount of support for moms, not just that we're just pro-birth and it stops as soon as the baby's born, but actually that we are truly pro-life, in terms of supporting life throughout.
I have to kind of comment on that. I know we're going through the whole pro-life section first, but 2 points for me. I opened the first homeless shelter in my state for homeless mothers with newborn babies. This program was a derivative of a sub-program that housed these women while they were pregnant. But on the day that they gave birth, that was their last day. It was their dismissal. The home wasn't set up to take care of the children.
Yeah.
And so I came in, having lived in this home and having been one of the girls that was just like, what do I do now? I was homeless while pregnant. How do I magically have a home now? Thankfully, I did have a family to go home to. I went back to a single parent home where my mother had 4 brothers there, and our family just grew by 1. But just thinking about that and thinking about the services and the support that are provided thereafter, it's wonderful to get the clothes and to get the formula and to get the diapers. But there is a psychological need, a mental health component for the mothers that's not addressed in giving out diapers and formula and things of that nature.
It's true.
I think it's vital for them to be available unilaterally across all mothers that have the baby, don't have the baby, that want to give the baby up for adoption, talking them through giving the baby up for all those resources that you're talking about. It's like I think you said that they just sort of go, well, you did it. Enjoy life.
Whatever you did.
Yeah, out the door you go, and here's your bill. And I think that you said that, of course, across the table, I think we all agree that I think that the whole problem would be a lot more manageable if it just existed that
Probably
way,
abortions would go down if the right counseling was available pre,
Support.
post, et cetera. You'd probably see the numbers go down. So look, we came up with an issue we all agree on. How do you like that?
That's so great.
That was pretty
Quick question, who brought the lentils?
Me.
They're delicious.
Thanks.
I
Appreciate
figured
it.
that.
So
Lebanese.
that is actually, it's a Lebanese main dish.
Yes.
so easy and healthy and vegan and all that.
Yeah, it's all the
And
things.
it's what we call, when Esau sold his birthright.
That's it. That's it. You know, my husband would laugh because I'm not a huge lentils fan.
Yeah.
In our culture, we don't make them that great.
Yeah.
I'm sold on lentils. I love
After
I think you're
tonight,
gonna have to pass around the rest of it.
And it's all healthy.
Yes,
I mean,
like it's gonna make its way back around right here.
And we make lentils, but it's more soup.
Somebody who's got mental health issues or is abusive partner, they're not going to be able to bring a life into this world that they can give to somebody else because they can barely take care of themselves.
But what if it's not somebody that's in that case? What if it's a 25-year-old that, has a one-night stand and decides to, because it's such a small percentage of women that are living in poverty that are making these choices. It's actually
Mentally ill, right.
medium income women that have careers and are just making a choice out of necessity.
Right.
I
So
would
I'm just
couple that
curious.
and say that the same way there are lasting effects to abortion, there are lasting effects to adoption. That just doesn't close a book. This
Somebody's-
organization that I work
Somebody
with,
has to fight for the right for a child.
I
Somebody.
I agree, but I've also been a part of organizations to where children who were given up now come back and they want to know why. And there's a whole nother level of shame and guilt. And now I've got to explain to you why I gave you away.
For us, I think, it's at conception because we believe that, that human life is made in the image of God. So it's sort of his reflection, and we believe that it's holy and protected,
Right.
wherever it exists. Yeah. So I think that's a key question. So at what point does it become okay to take that life? Whether it's a fetus or an embryo or a child or an adult.
Is it okay if I hit you back
Yeah,
with a
sure.
hard question?
Yeah.
So the question that's been posed so far is that when does life begin, right? So I have a counter question. When does the mother's bodily autonomy end?
We don't take adoption off the table.
Right.
We just say that right needs to be given to the woman who's carrying,
Agreed.
whatever her option is.
Yeah, and I loved your response, Omar, to just that physical kind of display of this is my body and it is my choice. And that is a very just strong kind of imagery when you think about the pro-choice movement. And I think the moment that we made the choice, because I want to also separate the anomalies, the minority circumstances, the very minority circumstances are the rape and the incest, tragedies, and then that moves back into theology where, God can make good out of all horrible things because children get cancer, and that's heartbreaking. But we go to the majority, and the majority of these choices are adults. Adults that are just not making good choices, because, we're trying to have fun, or maybe, I don't want to be burdened with this, or I already have 3 kids, and the birth control method didn't work, and dang, we didn't think that was going to happen, and so then now this moment, probably 4 weeks, you realize now that the baby's in there, and you say, well, it's just not good for me right now. It's not good for my season. It's this me, this self, this choice I have to make for myself. And I wonder if we saw 10 years from now, I wonder if we saw that living being looking back at us saying, I really want this life. If it's my choice, like I know you don't see all my hands and I know you don't see my fingers yet. You don't see my eyebrows yet. But I promise you, I want the choice and I want to be here. I just wonder if we could see that in that moment and we could make a choice that wasn't for ourselves, because now that I've been pregnant twice, I can tell you, I probably said that a couple times. I probably said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
This is hard. My husband wasn't, was out of business, and I'm just like, I can't do this by myself, because it felt like I was by myself, but I had the sense, I was like, okay, I'm a husband, I have another baby, I can do this. But, sometimes you are, there's postpartum depression, but there's, depression during pregnancy as well. Real dangerous stuff, real mentally challenging things women go through.
Perinatal, I think they call it perinatal depression. The one thing I've noticed we haven't talked about at all, because I know we keep talking about a woman's right to choose. What about the men that got the women pregnant?
I was just about to bring that up. I was going to ask the table.
Where are their responsibilities?
Right, everyone at the
and-
table, I was going to ask, what about a man's right to choose and the man's involvement?
I have a quick answer
responsibility.
for you.
And
I'll just
responsibility.
throw this out because it's real quick. The man is not pregnant. And if the woman wants the man to be involved, great. But if the woman wants an abortion, it's still her body. There's nobody, and this is my view, guys. I mean, this is why we're here at the table, right? To me, there is nobody anywhere for any reason, under any circumstances, that somebody can tell another person of sound mind what they can do with their health, period, end of story. That's my opinion.
I agree with you. The reason I asked the question, though, was because we talk a lot about women having to carry the baby to term and what happens to the woman after she carries the baby to term and has a baby. We haven't said that men need to step up and be involved.
And some men want to take that baby.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
if my
no doubt.
son had gotten a girl pregnant, she didn't want the
doubt.
baby, I would have taken the baby.
Right.
And not because I'm pro-choice or pro-life,
Right.
but because it's half of my son.
Yes.
And I would have been
Yeah.
glad to raise it.
Well, and I
help
think
him.
there's two sides to that. You say responsibility. Absolutely, a man should be held responsible once that baby comes into this world. On the other side of that, though, I also believe that a father should have the opportunity to say, I want this child. So many women I know have abortions without even having that conversation with her partner or with her boyfriend or the father of the child. And so I think it's on both sides. I totally agree a man should be held responsible. I mean, my husband and I were teenagers when we had our children. And he was fully held responsible at that time. And thank God we're still together even 30 years later. But I agree with you. They should definitely be held responsible for their actions.
Oh, my God.
Bring it.
Look at this.
What is this?
I think we like the people leches.
Tres leches.
Yes.
Muchas gracias.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
Excellent.
you go first.
I will.
How exciting.
Very nice.
You don't have to pin my hair back.
Never have I ever.
Let's go.
Dreaming of a Revolution. I love that song.
fantastic.
And I love the fact that you did the album in both Spanish and English.
Thank you.
Talk about your inspiration a little bit
Yeah.
for that. I mean, I can imagine what your inspiration is, but I'd love to hear it from the two of you.
Very recently, things started to happen in Cuba. Like people started to, realize that they needed change, right? And then we started writing this new album. It's called Pirate Radio, and we were just working on it. We didn't think about putting songs out just yet, but then it was July 11th. It happened. It was, a lot of protests started happening in Cuba, and it was like people literally just opened their eyes. So we felt like we needed to contribute somehow, and music is what we have. So that's why we decided to put out Dreaming of a Revolution in both English and Spanish, because yes, our people who speak Spanish, they know what's going on, but sometimes like Americans don't really know what's happening because the official speech is completely different from the reality, like the reality that we Cubans live. So that's why we have both languages for this album, and hopefully it'll help people around the world to know what is actually going on
It's an amazing
in
song.
Cuba.
It's
Thank
an
you.
amazing song.
I'm looking for a revolution, a treasure hunt, an illusion, a rabbit hole to go down and under, a wind of change to fly up with you. I'm looking for a revolution. You are looking for a revolution. salute.